She was one of the nicest people. Anyway, I will find out for you, Josh.
Thanks, James.
You're all right. Oh, there you go. 03456060973. What's the smallest animal that a vet can do with, or creature, really, because I don't know what the technical term would be. Dead leaf matches, that's quite exciting. I don't know if you've ever looked one up, but they look like leaves. It's a clue in the name. Susan's in Manchester. Susan, question or answer?
Hi, James, it's Melissa.
Yes.
I wanted to just expand a bit on the question about how you can help actors keep their voice. I think everything you've said so far is definitely a contributor, but your voice is also dependent on how your mouth size and shape. So a black person or an Asian person has very different physiology to a white person, for example.
No way.
And therefore your mouth is different.
Really?
Yeah, so it's to do with the size of your mouth cavity, the size of your teeth, the arrangement of your teeth, possibly even skull references, but getting a bit beyond my expertise, to be honest.
That will be a part of, so there's a big pie with lots and lots of slices.
Yeah,
That could be one.
Those things chip in, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Qualifications?
I'm an acoustic consultant and a bit of a nerd.
Round of applause for Susan. Oh, I love that. That's going to have relevance, pertinence as well. I like this as well from Rich. My name is Richard. I've got some very good French mates. I go sailing with them every year up the coast of Brittany where they have a boat. I am subject to a constant torrent of abuse for being English, including the classic roast beef. But now I also get called a dirty Brexiter, or quite simply Brexit. I don't know why I do it, but could you give them a shout anyway? Miguel, Sam, Jack and Etienne. They're not going to be listening, are they? Really unlikely. But there it is. So Brexit is now a term of abuse when French people are abusing English people. And frankly, who can blame them? 12:42 is the time that we're listening to Jason Bryant on LBC. We need some answers. Come on. We can't do all the work here. So we've done that one. Why is there no mouse-flavoured cat food? Maybe that's not a daft question. And you can humiliate me while also winning a Mystery Hour round of applause and the chance of winning a Mystery Hour board game. Organs and pain. I think that is a daft question. Not least when you remember that skin is an organ. Why do the English get to sing the overall national anthem at home? I think they do Land of Hope and Glory at the Commonwealth Gate. I'm imagining this, or Jerusalem or something, but David's question is about, if England play Scotland, why do England sing the song that is theoretically the Scottish national anthem as well? Smallest creature that a high street vet can operate on, and room for a couple more. Josh is in Milton. Josh, question or answer?
Question, please, James.
Carry on.
Why do we need to know where things are made? So, as an example, in front of me, I've got a notebook that says made in Italy, toys are made in China, or clothing is made in wherever.
Yes.
What is the legal requirement for knowing what country items are made from?
I think I know this, and I wouldn't have been able to answer it before Brexit.
Intrigued.
Well, because of trade agreements. So if I'm bringing something into the country that was made in a country with which we don't have a trade agreement, then there are frictions in place, or free trade agreements, or even frictionless movement. So if it's made in France and it's moving into Spain, then it can move absolutely clean. If it's made in China and it's moving from France to Spain, that doesn't quite work, does it? Because it can move absolutely cleanly as well. But I think the broad thrust of my answer is correct. It will be trade agreement. No, but that's because the trade agreements between France and Spain accommodate it. But elsewhere, if there's anywhere in the world where it's going to matter, and there is, then you might as well stick it on everything you make. And it might even be WTO rule.
Why do I need to know that as a consumer?
You don't. It's not for you.
It's
not for you. It's not for your. Well, you might care because you might want to buy British, but it's for the trade. It will be for the trading agreements, customs duties, tariffs, friction, all that sort of thing. It has to be.
Okay.
It's got to
I'll
be.
give that one to you, okay?
I'm going to take that one. Ask me what my qualifications are.
Are there qualifications other than being radio presenter?
No, ask me properly. Ask me what my qualifications are.
Qualifications?
I've never been wrong about Brexit in any way, shape or form.
You can give yourself a round of applause.
I will. Thank you very much. I'm probably wrong about that. It is coming up to 1:45.
Coming up at 1 on LBC, Sheila Fogarty.
Why are we seeing so many egregious examples of anti-Semitism in public life? What has happened to education about it?
LBC.
Rising energy costs are a big worry. Carbon emissions too. That's why EDF is helping build Britain's wind, nuclear and solar energy supply to help prevent energy crises and keep future costs down. Plus, we're the biggest generator of zero-carbon electricity right here in Britain. Find out more about our zero-carbon generation at edfenergy.com/helpingbritain.
Get ready for the coronation weekend and feel the power to lower prices with Tesco Club Card. Just scan your Club Card or app, and boom, the prices go down. Like 25% off 6 or more bottles of wine, such as 19 Crimes Rosé or Tesco Finest Garvey. Tesco. Every little helps. Drinkerware 18 plus, majority of larger stores, ends 8th of May. Club Card or app required.
Welcome to Able & Cole, where inconvenience is a good thing. We'll only deliver to your area once a week.
It reduces carbon emissions.
Our food costs a bit more.
We pay farmers fairly.
And our broccoli won't last as long.
Because we don't do preservatives or unnecessary plastic.
An inconvenience store is better for the planet and tastes better too.
Join the thousands of people choosing inconvenience. Search Able & Cole and order a carbon-neutral grocery delivery today. Difficult tastes better. Able & Cole.
As a house cat, I've grown accustomed to being spoiled. But since my humans subscribe to the Guardian newspaper, they spend too much time reading. Nowadays, they get the newspapers delivered, so they cover the bed with supplements and cost out. I used to be worshipped. Now all they worship is having up to 50% off their newspaper subscription to The Guardian and Observer. Search Guardian newspaper subscriptions to learn more. Offer ends 21st of May 2023. Open to UK and Northern Ireland residents age 18 plus. For full subscription terms and conditions, visit theguardian.com/subscription/terms.
Experience. It's knowing what a healthy deal looks like. Right now, you can get 2 months free when you take out Saga Health Insurance. You get 24/7 GP access all year round whenever you want it. And the freedom to choose your preferred private hospital and room should you need it. Simply search Saga Health Insurance today and get 2 months free. Saga Health Insurance. Experience is everything. Over 50s only.
2 months free for new customers starting with form May 15. Pay by monthly direct debit for the first year. Choose your own hospital by selecting Saga Countrywide Hospital List or London Upgrade.
At TDC Implant Centres, we can give you full mouth dental implants in just 1 day.
I could feel my teeth were loosening. They didn't feel as secure.
We gave Tony dental implants and natural-looking fixed teeth.
I walked in at 9:30 with problems, and I walked out at 5:30 with a full set of teeth.
Around 3 months later, we exchanged his fixed teeth for his final permanent set.
What drew me to this was the fact that it could be done in a day. To discover that that was possible was a revelation.
Book your consultation. Visit smileinaday.co.uk or call TDC Harley Street on 0203 7334 986.
Mystery Hour with James O'Brien. This is LBC.
12:48 is the time. Mystery Hour is upon us. Well, it's long past, nearly gone. Let's have a hurry up. Susan's in London Bridge. Susan, question or answer?
Answer.
Carry on.
So, yeah, the cat food that's made out of mice. The cat, why is there no mouse made with cat food? So I'm looking at a tin of it right now.
A tin of mouse-flavoured cat food?
Yeah, it says 100% mouse. It's from Germany.
Is it a joke?
So it's like, no, it's serious.
It's deadly serious, especially for the mice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think, when you think about it, they breed mice, don't they, for like, all sorts of things. But they breed mice to give to reptiles and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
they do.
You can get some, I think the reasoning behind it is like, when cats eat like mice in the wild, and what you said about they don't chase down a cow. When they eat the little mice in the wild, I think they eat all their sort of internal organs and the heart, the liver, and the little bone.
Well, they often don't even bother doing that, do they? I mean,
yeah, that's true.
I think the real answer to the reason why I was slightly impatient with Dean's question is because I spend a little bit more time than I would like getting rid of mice and their remains after they've fallen into the clutches of my cat. And I know for a fact that if the cat had 100 mice, it would still prefer a lovely bowl of the ridiculously expensive cat food that Mrs. O'Brien treats them to on a and also imagine the fuss and the fiddle in filleting a mouse.
Well, I know.
It's not like you just get down the abattoir, sweep the God, it's not
and
cheap.
I gave it to the cats.
So it's
and they
not
just walked away.
cheap.
No.
It's not cheap. Come on. That deserves cheap. It doesn't. That deserves more. Doesn't. Oh.
I'm still smarting from spending £4 and
Why
giving
did
it
you
to them, and then
They'd turn their noses up at it, right?
they did. They sneered at me.
I bet they did. I would. You serve me mouse, and that's part of the answer as well. It's nice.
Well, yeah, and I felt like such a mug, but I had to ring in and embarrass myself on
No, I love it.
national
Well,
radio.
you get a round of applause. So the answer to Dean's question is they do make it, but cats don't really like it, except possibly German cats. Maybe German cats like it.
Maybe German cats, it's an acquired taste.
Like curryverse. But we know it's not cheap. I'm not there. There we go. Qualifications, she's got a tin of it. What more can you ask? Have a round of applause.
Yay.
Jessica is in Kings Lynn. Oh, big day on Sunday, Jessica.
Oh, is it? I didn't know.
What? Are you joking me?
Big day.
What do you mean? Kings Lynn versus Kidderminster Harriers in the playoff semi-final for the National League North.
Oh, that's not my knowledge.
What you talking about? This is the biggest... This is the biggest thing that's happened to Lynn probably since it got the Royal Charter.
Oh, well, I can cry out for that.
I can't come. I'm too busy writing my flipping book. Otherwise, it'd be on the train up to Lynn like a bat out of hell. Question or answer? Jessica?
I've got some knowledge about my answers.
I like your modesty. I like your natural modesty. I hope it's contagious. I could do with a bit of that. Carry on.
It's about pain in the organs of the body.
Yes.
Because I've nursed palliative care patients who know to have organ pain. And it's not because so some organs don't have many nociceptors, which are pain receptors. However, any area can have pain if it's got inflammation, because the body then there's chemicals creating some inflammation that's prostaglandins that may create pain.
Okay.
So any inflammation in any organ can create these chemicals, so it doesn't mean they've got pain receptors because the brain's got blood. But you can get pain from inflammation.
And what about kidney stones? I don't know why I said that. I just felt at the time it was a very pertinent contribution to the conversation.
Yeah, I'm not particularly knowledgeable about that sort of mechanism of pain. I just know, the other thing I thought about was with the brain, and people say you need to have surgery on the brain that doesn't hurt. Well, actually, you're under conscious sedation, so you're receiving sedatives and pain anyway. So although your brain is talking, you're not particularly going to be in pain because you've got these chemicals and this treatment going on.
Flooding your system, so you do. I mean, if we were going to go binary, like yes or no, the skin is an organ, and the skin hurts.
But that does have a lot of nociceptors, so that's known to have a lot of pain receptors.
Exactly.
Some organs have less. But
Do any organs have none at all?
Not that I was aware of.
And even if they did have none at all, if they got inflamed, it would still hurt.
Because of the inflammatory chemicals.
So the chemicals being released regardless of the receptors.
Yeah, it's yeah.
And that's a beautiful answer. Qualifications. I know you mentioned it, but it's for
I know, so I've had to study things, when pain's presenting in front of you, you have to study what's going on to be able to treat it.
And I hope it's the Kings Lynn fans that need painkillers on Sunday, not the Kidderminster Harriers fans, Jessica.
I'll keep an eye out for that.
Who knows? Round of applause for Jessica, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. A lovely answer. 12:54, isn't it? I'm getting quite a lot of abuse now, which I'm comfortable with. Very thick skin. For suggesting that mice go cheap. Now, there's two things you need to know about this. Cheap is a perfectly reasonable depiction of the noise that a mouse makes. You might more commonly associate it with, for example, a canary or something like that. But I bet you that the French don't say cock-a-doodle-doo. They say cockerico, cockerico. I'm 100% certain, and I will brook no quibbling, that somewhere in the world, the noise that humans make when they're doing an impression of a mouse is cheap. Cheap. And I'm pretty sure I've encountered that on my travels. I'm 99% sure that I have encountered a cheap noise being routinely used as a noise for mouse mates. So I'm having that. It was a brilliant joke, frankly. I liked it. What's the name of the lovely lady that I've stopped writing down names. I'll be able to give away the board game at this point. Mouse cat food. What's the name of the mouse cat food lady? No, she's not going to not going to want to be known as that for the rest of her life, is she? So, say again. Susan, of course it was. And then Jessica is in King's Lynn with the organs. Who am I going to give it to this week? It's a tough one. Etty's in Kentish Town. Etty, question or answer?
Answer, James.
Carry on.
National anthem.
Oh, yes.
England doesn't have dibs on God Save the Queen. So at football, Northern Ireland also sings God Save the Queen. So when England played Northern Ireland in qualifiers last year, that was in the women's game, only God Save the Queen was played.
Twice?
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. You're 100% sure about this?
100 million % sure. I went in 2016, Northern Ireland were in the men's football in the Euros.
Yeah.
And I went to a game, they played it. And you were saying about the Commonwealth game.
Yes.
Spot on. England sing Jerusalem there. That's because it's just, I guess it's a different protocol. No one sings God Save the Queen at the Commonwealth game. Maybe that's because all the Commonwealth countries, all of the home nations always compete.
So it's just the rugby then, really, as far as we can tell, where we have this division that David described.
More in the rugby, obviously, Ireland play as one team.
Yes.
There is no Northern Ireland, so they wouldn't be able to. My suspicion would be that for the rugby, if Scotland or Wales wish to sing God Save the Queen, they would have as much of a right to as England. So you would either end up with both Christmas singing it or neither. So it would either be football or...
It's an incredibly comprehensive answer. What are your qualifications?
Watching sport.
A bit fanatical sports.
Observation.
I bet, I mean, you think you're a big sportsman. I bet you're not going to King's Lynn on Sunday, are you?
I'm not going to King's Lynn. I should be listening captively on the radio.
That's the spirit. BBC Hereford and Worcester probably have it, or certainly BBC East Anglia. 551 tickets we've sold already for that game. That's astonishing on the road for a club like Kinney. Round of applause for Etty, please. Very nicely done. And no, thank you. And Susan Hounslow. Here's the thing. What's the name of the mouse? Can you remember the name of the mouse in the Narnia books? No. Reapy Cheap. Say the last syllable of that for me, will you? Your own time, Sue.
Sorry, the name of the mouse? I don't know.
No, it's Reapy Cheap.
Reapy Cheap?
Yes.
No, I said it's Reapy Cheap.
Thank you. Cheap, cheap, cheap. So stop texting me with squeak, squeak, squeak. Doesn't make sense. Question or answer, Sue?
Answer.
Carry on.
Okay, so the reason products are labelled with the origin is to make sure that they get the right preference. Preference is where you have a trade agreement with other nations, and this all comes under WTO rules as well. If you have an agreement in place and the label is there, you can identify the origin.
Yep.
The agreement may allow you to bring your goods in rules of origin.
Yep.
It allows you to bring in your goods free of duty, but you have to pay VAT. And you can still bring your goods in, but if you don't have an agreement, then you pay the full duty rate, which makes your product more expensive.
Yep.
And you still
no country would ever do that, would they?
well, you said earlier you were doing
email. Kath Feiner says, I'm working with members of the senior editorial team on what those changes might be, changes to that process, so that we can be sure something like this won't happen again. I think it's about education, isn't it? The whole thing. I was 10 when I started talking about the Holocaust, so let's talk about what you knew at 10.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 1 o'clock, Volodymyr Zelensky has reiterated his call for a war tribunal to investigate crimes committed by Russia. The Ukrainian president has been addressing the International Criminal Court, which has already issued a warrant for Vladimir Putin. President Zelensky has warned the ICC, we can't pass our problems to future generations.
We all want to see different Vladimir here in The Hague. The one who deserves to be sentenced for these criminal actions right here in the capital of the international law. And I'm sure we will see that happen when we win.
Russia, meanwhile, is accusing the US of instructing Kyiv to carry out an assassination attempt on President Putin. Ukraine has denied being responsible for the alleged attack, while the US is yet to comment. A review will be carried out into the AI market, including the popular chatbot ChatGPT. The Competition and Markets Authority says it will look at the opportunities and risks of artificial intelligence. It comes a day after the godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, resigned from his job at Google, warning that bad actors could use it to harm others. 2 Palestinian men accused of shooting dead 3 members of a British-Israeli family have been killed in a raid. Lucy D and her daughters Maya and Rena died in the West Bank last month. Manny Fabian, a correspondent with the Times of Israel, says the men were killed in an exchange of fire with Israeli forces.
Troops entered the northern West Bank city of Nablus, specifically the Nablus Old City. It surrounded this home where these gunmen affiliated with the Hamas group were supposed to be hiding. According to Palestinian media accounts, missiles were launched at the building, shoulder-launched missiles, in an attempt to flush the members out. A gun battle ensued at the scene.
Human rights campaigners have condemned the use of facial recognition technology at the King's coronation. The Metropolitan Police is planning to use the cameras to scan crowds for a watch list of people officers believe pose a risk. Scotland Yard says it's designed to keep the public safe. And more than 500,000 hopefuls have applied for a ballot place to take part in next year's London Marathon. Organisers received a total of 578,374 applications, setting a new world record. In the city a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was trading down 64 points at 77.23. The pound buys $1.25 and €1.13. LBC weather, showers moving northeastwards across southwestern parts of the UK. Dry elsewhere with rain easing in the far north, a high of 20 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Amelia Cobbs.
Some things just add some play to your day. Catching the toast as it pops out of the toaster. Dancing down the street to your favourite playlist. Wearing your sparkly boots to the shop. And best of all, picking a new pink scratch card.
A pink scratch card, please. Thank you.
And doing your own drum roll. This is exciting. Add some play to your day with scratch cards from the National Lottery. Search Dream Big, Play Small. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 18 or over.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Sheila Fogarty.
Hello there, good afternoon to you if you're just joining us here at LBC. We've spoken already in the last week or so, haven't we, about that dreadful anti-Semitic cartoon that somehow made its way onto the pages of The Guardian, a long-established national newspaper. And now an internal email from the editor of The Guardian, Kath Feiner, who removed the cartoon quickly and apologised quickly as well on behalf of the paper. But this internal email reveals just a little more really about where The Guardian is now on this. She says in this internal email, which has been leaked, I know many colleagues were shocked and upset, as I was, she says, by the cartoon. There is no place for this type of image in The Guardian. say that it clearly, this failure of their editorial process shows that some changes need to be brought in. And she says she's working with members of the senior editorial team on what those changes might be, so that, she says, we can be sure that something like this won't happen again. So, they're taking hold of it, aren't they, and trying to do something about it. And it just got me thinking, the whole thing, about how what is going wrong with our education on this topic generally. And I don't just mean in school, but I do include schools in this. What has gone wrong since when I was a little girl? And I know there are risks in thinking it was better when I was a little girl, but when I was 10 years of age, a book, so I hadn't quite gone to senior school yet. The classroom I was in, we read a book by a Dutch woman, not a Jewish woman actually, but she ended up in a concentration camp all the same for protecting Jews and hiding them. Connie ten Boom, a book called The Hiding Place. And it was just an extraordinary read for my 10-year-old brain. And in the Jewish cemetery that was right next door to the Catholic church, that was our parish church as a family, it was always being vandalised for some reason. And I remember asking my dad why it was always being vandalised. And he put the whole thing into context for me. And then at the same time, pretty much as that, around that time, that fantastic ITV series called, plainly, Holocaust, was on primetime television every evening. And that was my education to start with at that age. That was my education on anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. And I wonder whether we have a sufficiently clear process of educating people about anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. Because if we don't, we need to fix that. And if we do, if we decide we do, then some people are simply revealing themselves to be anti-Semitic, are they not? There must be some middle ground there somewhere that we can try to get to today, hopefully, on this. But tell me about how you think. I mean, I think the Guardians, all of them, everybody in the Guardian, because this is what I would want to do if I worked there, should have a proper process of education about anti-Semitism, anti-Semitic tropes, and the Holocaust. But do your kids know enough? What are they being taught at school? The Holocaust Educational Trust does fantastic work to make sure that there is an ongoing process of education about this, but it seems to me the only way forward. So what is going wrong, if anything is going wrong, with our education when it comes to this issue? 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. You can text 84850 or tweet at LBC. I'm joined by Dave Rich, Head of Policy for the Community Security Trust, a charity which provides security to Britain's Jewish community. Dave, thank you for joining me today. Hi.
Hi, good afternoon.
You wrote a piece in the immediate aftermath of this, in The Guardian, in fact, in the immediate aftermath of this cartoon being published. What was the message you wanted to get across in that piece?
You're absolutely right. The Guardian actually asked me to write that piece explaining why the cartoon was anti-Semitic, what the particular tropes and stereotypes were. And I think it's to their credit that they haven't just hunkered down and gone ultra-defensive, that they have tried to use this as an opportunity to learn. The cartoon itself, there were several problems with it, but they all focused around the depiction of Richard Sharp, who is a public figure. He's the outgoing chair of the BBC. He's been in the news a lot, and absolutely in that role should be subject to the same kind of scrutiny as any other public figure. But the issue was with how it was done in this particular cartoon, that he was given the kind of stereotypically Jewish face that anti-Semitic cartoonists and propagandists have done for centuries, and that really should have been familiar to people at The Guardian. Now, I think it's really good that The Guardian are looking at their editorial processes to see how this was missed, but I think you're absolutely right that if they don't have the education in what anti-Semitism looks like and what these different stereotypes are, then you can have the best process in the world and still nobody will pick it up. But I think having that learning and that education would be a really good way to try and reduce the chances of this happening again.
And it seems to me as well, from a journalistic perspective, let alone just a general population education, given the very recent experience of the Labour Party and anti-Semitism, and just how deeply that was felt and reported upon and discussed and debated and argued over, that a left-wing newspaper would be the paper in which this appeared. Just beggared belief, really.
It does seem ironic, and I think it points to a particular problem, is that quite often when you think of anti-Semitism as something that we understandably associate with Nazism, with the Holocaust, as you say, there's fantastic Holocaust education in schools now. But what this means is that for people who are not Nazis, people who are on the left, whether it was in the Labour Party or we see here people in Garden, it perhaps might not occur to them that anti-Semitism could be present within their institution or in their part of the political spectrum. But what we've seen in recent years, especially with what happened in the Labour Party under its previous leadership, is that anti-Semitism very much can happen in those places. It's a phenomenon, a type of hatred that's been around for such a long time in so many different societies and political movements. It's really not restricted to just one type of extremism.
No, and it isn't just restricted to the Holocaust, however much that was the sort of culmination of that hatred, an illustration of that hatred that we couldn't have imagined. It's not the only example, is it, by any means?
No, it's not. Anti-Semitism has carried on since then. Levels of hate crimes targeting the Jewish community in this country are far too high still. We see terrorist attacks at synagogues and the Jewish buildings in North America and in Europe. So this problem is ongoing. It's not something that's only part of history, and that's why, in this case, journalists, editorial staff really need to have that understanding.
I was looking at some elements this morning of education around these issues, and in as recently as 2021, UCL here in London carried out a survey of what people know about the Holocaust and about anti-Semitism, and less than half of 2,000 randomly selected adults knew that 6 million people were killed in the Holocaust, which is an indictment of the education process, isn't it, on this issue?
I think the problem is when you put that together, the fact that if you asked all the Jewish students and staff at UCL or anywhere else for their experiences of anti-Semitism, the vast majority of them will tell you about times when they personally experienced anti-Semitic comments and abuse or things people say when they're not knowing they're Jewish. It really is an everyday experience for Jewish people. Even in a country like Britain, which on the whole is really not such an anti-Semitic country. It's a place where Jewish life really thrives. So you can see if there has been kind of a lack of education, much about Holocaust, but about anti-Semitism today, that's part of the reason why it continues to happen. Perhaps not enough people see it and recognise it and speak out against it when it does occur.
If they do write articles that are anti-Semitic or say things that are anti-Semitic or allow, 3 levels, I think, of editorial allow that cartoon to get in there. Plus Martin Rosen's brain as well allow that to be drawn in the first place. He's said how he thinks he got there and that it didn't intend to be anti-Semitic at all. Is that conceivable? Whoopsie doopsie, I've been anti-Semitic.
It seems unfathomable in a way that such an experienced cartoonist and a newspaper with a whole editorial process scary
and powerful,
dangerous, but there was something admirable about the power and strength of that creature. And that's why it's in this cartoon depicting Goldman Sachs, the bank, as a squid. And Martin Roseman's not the first to do this. Lots of newspapers have done this. It's become this motif for the bank. Goldman Sachs is a Jewish-founded bank that has a very Jewish-sounding name. And a squid, the idea of tentacles reaching in everywhere, is a very anti-Semitic image.
It is the answer education for the Guardian staff and is the answer education for all of us.
I think when we have situations like this, we always have to be optimistic and look and see how we can improve things. And the obvious step forward is better understanding and better learning about what anti-Semitism is and what it looks like, because it's not always obvious. It's not always very upfront type of racism. It relies on ideas and stereotypes and conspiracy theories that can just pass people by. The more people know about them and understand them, the more chance we have of preventing it.
Thank you for talking to me today, Dave. Good to talk to you. Dave Rich, Head of Policy for the Community Security Trust. If you want to read his article, I will tweet it later. Your calls on this, just your thoughts on how we educate, not just children actually, it's how we educate everyone and one another about this. But I'd be really keen to know, either from teachers or parents or recently left students, exactly what is taught in schools about anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. Be keen to know. 0345 6060 973, because it was such a big topic of discussion and reading in my school days. I wonder whether that's still the case. It's 1:17.
This is LBC.
Celebrate the Coronation Weekend with 25% off any 6 bottles of wine or fizz priced over £5 at Waitrose. Your extensive choice includes an aromatic Sanlio Prosecco, the exceptionally drinkable Provençal Rosé Whispering Angel, a fruity Nightingale Classic Cuvée, and a vividly herby The Ned Sauvignon Blanc. A toast, anyone?
Selected stores and lines, subject to availability. Excludes Scotland, Wales and Jersey.
Discover a place of diversity and opportunity where you push boundaries and break barriers. The University of Hertfordshire shapes tomorrow's leaders and trailblazers. It's somewhere the industry turns to innovate, to grow. This is a place that never settles, never stops. Discover a place where ideas move at a different pace. Hearts beats faster. Search University of Hertfordshire to find out more.
At Pension B, we're building a pension company you can believe in. Be pension confident. Join at pensionb.com. Capital at risk, authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority.
This Coronation Weekend, why not try juicy New York-style beef burgers, fiery harissa halloumi kebabs, tender chimichurri bavette steaks, or succulent chicken tikka breast kebabs? Delicious. They're all part of the mouth-watering Waitrose barbecue range, and you can now enjoy 2 for £8 on selected barbecue products in-store and online. Make it a sizzling celebration with Waitrose's barbecue offer. Waitrose, food to feel good about.
Selected stores and lines, subject to availability. If you bought a timeshare, did you really get what you expected? Or were you sold a dream that's now a nightmare? With high maintenance fees, loss of exclusivity, and limited availability, timeshare ownership for many is now just a liability. MyTimeshareClaim.co.uk has helped thousands of owners who are missold exit their contract and receive compensation. For advice and to find out more about your options, text ASSIST to 78900.
The London Bath Company presents your concierge managed bathroom installation service in just 3 statements.
No mess, no stress, no drama.
That's the way it should be. As for your luxury bathroom, it's
designed for free, uncompromised, incomparable.
the London Bath Company. Your new bathroom, designed and installed the way it should be.
Showrooms in Chiswick, St John's Wood, Blackheath, and at thelondonbath.co.uk.
Sheila Fogarty on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Just in case you're interested, you'll know I am, but just in case you're interested, the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Kate, are wandering through the streets of Soho, meeting people, and I think they spent some time in a pub in Soho as well, obviously ahead of the coronation, which we will be covering live on the day. Martin Stanford will give you live commentary of the service itself. Nick Ferrari will talk you through the morning's events, and I will hold your hand at Barclay Brewing and Flypast as well. And we'll hopefully have conversations around it on the day too, later in the day. Claire has called from Wimbledon there, our first caller, on the question of anti-Semitism and what we do to make sure that education about it is up to scratch. Hi, Claire.
Hi, how are you doing? Yeah, I was just saying to your lovely producer, I think it's actually getting to look better, the education around the Holocaust and anti-Semitism, because I was just explaining my son's 14 and they've just been covering the Holocaust and World War II and things like that, and they actually had a Holocaust survivor come in and speak to them, which was a remarkable thing, and they were absolutely shocked by the tales that were said. And they watched videos such as World at War, which I thought, when I watched as a child, showing page now.
Me too.
With my father.
Break your heart.
It was great. It was so powerful. I thought the documentary, but I thought they've been very tamed down now as things are going on. And I was also explaining, my daughter is 10, she's just done English topic. They studied the boy in striped pajamas. Again, another horrific story.
He's 10, did you say?
She's 10.
She's 10, you did.
She's 10.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear, because that's the equivalent of my reading at 10.
Exactly, and they actually, because of it, with the child, was so interested that she was on a school trip to the Imperial War Museum to show them the Holocaust exhibit. We had to sign consent forms, obviously, because it is quite, again, a powerful exhibit to watch, see, sorry. And I have to say, both my children are absolutely shocked, but one question I keep saying is, why? Why do people have this feeling against the Jewish community so much? Because my son said it was really weird. You also have quite a couple of kids in school, don't you? He turned around and said they actually started using the term "this how terrific Jew" as an insult, like, oh, you're such a Jew, which was really weird. And my son turned around and said, well, you didn't say that about someone else, like another religion.
And that was in school, was it?
Yeah, it was good, but I mean, if kids don't know, I don't know. The kids just had no idea. And then when they actually went and saw this exhibit and watched everything and had this Holocaust survivor came in, he went, oh my God, I can't believe I did that.
I wonder where he had heard that.
I have no clue, but it was just so bizarre, because I've never heard it anybody being called that as an insult personally. But this kid was just going around saying it. But I do think it's a generational thing, because I think the education system is bringing it definitely up to speed and definitely bringing it back into the fore.
Well, I'm glad to hear. I mean, what you describe is brilliant, and I know that the Holocaust Educational Trust also arranges trips for older children, doesn't it, to Auschwitz and other places to really show them what the situation was there.
Yeah.
As really as you can, I suppose, this 17.
But I do think it's a generational thing, because obviously if you've got journalists and illustrators of a certain age doing this kind of thing, I think it's definitely a generational thing, and maybe they...
Claire, they're my age. I mean, the editor of The Guardian is my age. Senior journalists in that editorial process will be my age, or in their late 30s, 40s. You know, you shouldn't be a journalist on a national paper and not get that.
100%. You shouldn't be doing that. No, not at all, in any way, shape or form. I just don't. It is just such a bizarre thing, but I just thought I'd sort of throw in first.
Well, I'm delighted.
The educational system are trying their best.
Yeah, and my question wasn't to cast doubt on schools, because I don't think it can just be left to schools by any means. I think it has to be parents, it has to be books, it has to be films. I mean, when I think about that series called Holocaust, do you remember it, Claire? You were probably a bit younger than me.
I don't. I remember it.
It was on at something like 7 in the evening. It was a 10-part series or something like that. It was on 7 or 8 in the evening. And, you know, primetime television, ITV. And, you know, I just don't think you get that now, would you? It would be a documentary on BBC Two now.
I think, yeah, it's definitely been taken out of the foresight of people. It's not such a in-your-face kind of thing anymore. I don't quite understand why, because it's obviously a very, very important part of history that happened. Maybe they think they thought it was too graphic, and maybe this generation
I just think,
I don't know.
I mean, you tell me what you got from your education into it. You know, you talked there about the World at War. Was that a key thing for you to see?
That was definitely. I will always remember sitting there with my dad watching World I found clips of it, which I don't know, on YouTube and things, and I showed my son, and I showed him clips, and we had a very frank and open conversation about it. And he was just so shocked, and my daughter as well, I didn't show her some of it because obviously some of the things are too horrific, and the pair of them over dinner, they were just talking about it, and it's so sounding strange, kind of not nice to hear, but it's nice to be engaging and understanding that it's wrong, and they were trying to gather as to why there is anti-Semitism, because nobody quite understands why.
And it's an ancient hatred, isn't it? That it's just
yeah, and the big question was like, where did it come from and why? And I don't think you could ever answer. It was just.
Well, when they're a bit older, definitely get them to watch. And do you know what? I'm going to have to start getting shares in this series. I mention it so often. No. It's a brilliant series it's probably about a decade old now, but it's still just as good. By Simon Sharma, the historian. And it's called The Story of the Jews. There's a book that goes with it, but it was a BBC series and stuff, I think. And you can still find it somewhere out there. But it's a good historical account of, you guessed it, the story of the Jews that comes up to the modern day, including things like the settlements in Israel and that kind of thing. And it's just an extraordinary account of the people and of the hatred that's followed them wherever they've gone.
There's another thing, my son saw on the telly getting ready for school in the morning. There was a guy called the Nazi Hunter. He was actually a Nazi concentration camp survivor, and the guy he portrayed in Schindler's List as the mad, power crazy head of the concentration camp. He actually captured him, and it's all about the story of how his relationship with him. And my son's actually asked that book to read it, because I think it is getting through to this generation. But I don't quite understand what happens in between that.
And there's another one that your son might like if he's 14, 15. It's the one that Jonathan Friedland has just written called The Escape Artist. It's fantastic, and it begins with, it's the story of a 19-year-old who escaped from Auschwitz. So with your son just being a teenage boy himself, he might relate to that. But it's an extraordinary story. The Escape Artist, it's called. When he came out last year. Do. Thank you, Claire. I think with you it's their mum, they'll be fine. Judging by what you told me. And their school looks like it's doing a good job as well. That's good to hear. David in Walthamstow, hi.
Good morning to you. Good afternoon.
Yes, it's half past one.
Look, I've seen a sort of different representation of that sentence over the course of my life and how it's changed and things. And you sometimes get to the point where you think, is this just a sort of manifestation that will never ever be erased and can't be erased?
Manifestation of what?
Well, what you talked about, such an ancient hatred, that it's impossible, seemingly, to sort of get rid of it. I mean, I've seen for so many years being brought up with stories of my family that were brought up with, and, the way people, coming to the UK, safety, and all these things, which is all true.
Your family?
Yeah. So I'm from a Jewish background. And the conversation always, often in these sorts of scenarios, sort of ends up going back to the Holocaust and all these things. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because you talk about anti-Semitism, and the Holocaust often comes up. Something like, Martin Rosen's cartoon has got nothing to do with that almost. It's a completely separate entity. And my point is that, how best to put it, it's almost, the conversation always goes back to something that it isn't really about. The Holocaust is a combination of thousands of years of horror.
Well, it's thousands of years of hatred. And so if you see, it seems to me, if you see expressions of that hatred or hear expressions of that hatred, it's your moral duty to challenge it. And I include me in that. When I say your, I don't mean you, I mean all of us.
No, look, I suppose what I'm trying to say is that conversations like this and conversations about anti-Semitism sort of often go back to including, looking at the Holocaust and the horror of that.
How can it not?
My point is,
how can it not?
Because I think in a sense it's slightly separate. If you were to say to anyone in the UK, you know, anyone in the world, well, most people in the world, you know, with half a brain, to say is the Holocaust an awful, horrendous thing and a nightmarish scar on humanity, people would say, of course it was. But I'm saying just because you register that as being a horrific, nightmarish event, it doesn't stop people having something pernicious. A lot of people pernicious in their mind when they think about Jewish people. I think what
But that pernicious thing provided the ground on which the psychopathy of Nazism was able to do what it did.
Look, there's no argument. Of course, I completely agree with you. But my point is it's separate, because you're talking about Britain nowadays, right? And anti-Semitism exists before, let's say, the Holocaust is going to conclude that. Of course it did, hugely, right? And I'm saying anti-Semitism exists even now after.
I know.
But what I'm saying is the guise that it's taken is so different that it just feels like to eradicate this virus, just feels that I'm this thing.
I'm not really talking about eradicating. I'm talking about educating people so that in the face of it, you've got an answer. That's what I'm talking about. I don't think any of us have the power to say we can eradicate the hatred that resides in human hearts. I don't think we can. On that, I think you're probably right, David. But this hour is about how the hell do we educate young people and any adults that still need educating that they must beware not to harbour that in their own hearts. And the only way you can do that, the only way you have a chance of doing it, is to know something about nuclear. But an awful lot of people seemingly don't, or they're just anti-Semitic. Thanks, David, for your call. David and Moore from Stowe. It's 1:33. Let's get the headlines from Amelia Cox.
The Ukrainian president says he's convinced his Russian counterpart will face an international war crimes court over the ongoing conflict. Volodymyr Zelensky's been speaking in The Hague, where he's demanding Vladimir Putin faces justice for alleged atrocities. The family of a 31-year-old woman stabbed to death in South London has described her as a smart, dedicated and loving girl. Jahanita Gosiwer-Dogby was attacked in Brixton on Monday. It's not thought she knew her attacker. The UK's competition watchdog is to examine whether the AI industry should face new rules. Regulators around the world are scrambling to assess the impact of rapidly advancing systems such as ChatGPT. LBC weather, showers moving northeastwards across southwestern parts of the UK. Dry elsewhere with rain easing in the far north, a high of 20 degrees.
LBC.
Paramount Plus is a mountain of entertainment for only $6.99 a month. Stream the iconic Yellowstone.
I'm doing this for our family.
New Kiefer Sutherland spy thriller Rabbit Hole.
I can't tell it's real and it's not.
The box office smash Smile and brilliant sci-fi drama La Brea.
Where the hell are we?
Feeling flaky? No problem. You can cancel anytime and we're completely ad-free. Except for this one. Blockbusters, originals and iconic shows all on Paramount Plus. Join now. T's and C's apply. Subscription required and 18 plus. Auto renews at $6.99 per month unless cancelled. Price subject to change.
One thing we can all agree on, no one wants another energy crisis. But just talking about it won't make it go away. Here's what we're actually doing at British Gas. We're increasing the UK's gas storage so that we can help make energy prices more predictable for everyone. And so the 7.5 million homes and businesses who rely on us for their energy today can rely on us tomorrow too. That's enough talking. Let's get on with the doing. British Gas.
However they want to be in life, give them a great start with WellKid. Carefully balanced, great tasting vitamins and minerals for 4 to 12-year-olds.
and spy thriller rabbit hole,
I can't tell what's real and what's not.
the box office smash Smile, and brilliant sci-fi drama La Brea.
Where the hell are we?
Feeling flaky? No problem. You can cancel anytime and we're completely ad-free. Except for this one. Blockbusters, originals and iconic shows all on Paramount Plus. Join now. T's and C's apply. Subscription required and 18 plus. Auto renews at $6.99 per month unless cancelled. Price subject to change.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with Sheila Fogarty.
Let me get back to your calls. Joshua has called from Liverpool. Hello, Joshua.
Hello, hi. Good afternoon, Sheila.
And you too.
I want to make a point. I'm 23, and I guess I'm a recent product of our education system. And I would completely agree that education is the answer. However, I don't think much needs to change, except that really education needs to be better funded as a whole. I, during the course of my studies, studied the Holocaust, and then got the opportunity to travel to Poland, where we went to Auschwitz. We went to see all the parts of the famous Schindler's List, etc. And we got a very powerful experience from that, and that was open to the whole history department, etc. I don't think there's much really in that, unfortunately. I think there's 2 points I'd like to make. Firstly, the people who are educated currently, I don't think have any excuse, and kind of putting it on this idea that we need to have better education sort of excuses a lot of people. For instance, if we're talking about the Guardian article, those people are educated enough to know the difference here and to understand how abhorrent and damaging anti-Semitism is. And it's a worse crime, in my view, for those people to have the opportunity. We have so much education that's free. For instance, with YouTube and even sites like TikTok, etc., you can find so much education through that completely for free. So for people who are able to do that and come from, privileged backgrounds where they've had good schooling, etc., that's a very different thing to the majority of people who you see who are anti-Semitic or going on to racism, etc., as well, as the same sphere, who are pushed, sort of to the edge of the society, don't have the same level of education and stuff. And when they see people in the press or in the media, etc., touting those same views, it gives them validity of those.
Yeah, I mean, you've come right to the point that I was getting to, really, off the back of what you were saying, but you've done it for me, really, which was that, we are of one mind, I think, on this, Joshua, because the reason I was so disturbed by what happened to the Labour Party on this issue under Jeremy Corbyn, and the reason I'm so disturbed by the fact that a cartoon of that nature could appear in a newspaper like The Guardian, is when you have powerful voices and powerful platforms and powerful places making themselves a home for anti-Semitism, you give, as you say, you give permission to people who would ordinarily stay in the shadows and stay beyond the pale with these views and keep them to their own living room if that's what they want to do. But when you see people being given permission and making excuses and half explanations and yes, but I didn't quite mean and da-da-da-da, it's dangerous. It is dangerous. And it's why at the time of the Corbyn era and today and last week, I do give time to this because it horrifies me that we could ever go even close to those days again.
Absolutely, and what I think part of this relies on, therefore, we're in agreement that sort of the education system is in a place, it's the fact that things like analysis of sources and critical thinking and taking that information, processing it yourself and then coming to a decision seems to be in shorter and shorter supply. And real threats that I think we now have to our society, such as algorithms creating, I'm sure you're familiar with like the alt-right pipeline and stuff. People, lads my age or younger, watch one video of, someone saying something slightly controversial,
and then it leads them down
being pounded with it. And it reminds me of, I think it's Ian Curtis' film Hypernormalization, and it's that slow chipping away of things, and before you know it, someone's casually saying something that is anti-Semitic, and they probably don't even realise what they're saying is so awful, and the actual ramifications of it, because they're getting slowly woven away. I guess the problem is education, but not education on things like the Holocaust, and it's helping people learn how to process that information and understand that just because someone who may be intellectually or background in some way better than you, doesn't have to have a good point.
I also think it can't just be facts-based. It has to be ethics-based as well, the teaching about the Holocaust, because it isn't just about, or anti-Semitism, it isn't just about either of those things. It needs to be about, those people in Nazi Germany who went along with it, and that's a complex thing as well. There could be reasons of fear that people went along with it. There could be all kinds of reasons why people went along with things. But if you embed in someone a deep enough sense of the intrinsic value of every other human being, no matter where they're from, what they look like, or who they are to you, if you embed in their bones that understanding, then you start to build a wall against the kind of fascism that led to the Holocaust and the kind of hatred that led to the Holocaust.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things I do like about Old Country, which, without going into other things, is maybe not the longest list in the world, is the fact that there are plenty of people here who are very incorporative of, I don't know if that's a word.
Neither do I.
Our multi, ethnicity and diverse existence or population. And I think, for me, what it all comes down to is just the sheer fact of why do people care? And I think it comes to us, all these issues, whether it's race, religion, gender, whatever, if it's not affecting you directly, I'm always baffled as to why anyone actually cares. If someone is of the Jewish faith or the Muslim faith or whatever, the likelihood is them doing whatever they need to do is not impacting you in any way. No. So why would you need to have this? And then it all comes down to things like the alt-right pipeline, things like slow little bits of the media, etc., giving you someone to blame.
And I don't think either that any of us can think that we know everything about or understand everything about anti-Semitism and other forms of racism. I mean, I've said it before, I have learned a hell of a lot about racism against black people and Asian people on this programme by talking to so many who told me what their life is like and how it's different to mine on that front.
It always... Sorry, apologies.
No, that's fine. And I needed... There was a few things I needed to learn, and I've been taught them by callers.
Inherently, I think it always comes down to two things, and it's fear and someone to blame. And unfortunately, again, in the society we live in at the moment, the cost of living crisis, etc., people are looking for people to blame. So when you get a Guardian article like this, or a cartoon, it can give people someone to blame. And then we look back at Nazi Germany, or we look back to the Russian pogroms, or all the way to the sort of establishment, I guess you'd call it, of anti-Semitism. It's all finding someone to blame for your problems. I read when I was learning about anti-Semitism about the sort of Christian gripe and how it basically just came down to the fact that due to religion, Jewish people could charge Christians interest on loans. So it was having someone conveniently to blame for your money problems. And
that's gone on.
It's not about necessarily educating people on those specific things. It's educating people on the fact that they need to be able to not just believe everything they hear and be critical thinkers in their own right, so they can say, oh, he's Jewish. How is that relevant? That's not relevant to the conversation. That's not relevant to the topic. And I'm able to process and do that myself, because there's always, as you said, going to be anti-Semitic people. There's always going to be racist people. And unfortunately, they often end up with the loudest voices. So the importance is less on educating people about all the abhorrence and terrible things that have happened, and rather helping them understand to A, educate themselves, and B, process that information. I think I'm repeating myself a little now.
No, it's all right. We'll both go and look up incorporative and see if it's a word. Thanks very much, Joshua, for your call, Joshua, in Liverpool. We'll have an update on events overnight in Ukraine, some air attacks from Russia overnight in Ukraine. So we'll talk to Jade McGlynn, researcher at King's College London's War Studies Department. It's 1:45.
This is LBC.
Discover a place of diversity and opportunity where you push boundaries and break barriers. The University of Hertfordshire shapes tomorrow's leaders and trailblazers. It's somewhere the industry turns to innovate, to grow. This is a place that never settles, never stops. Discover a place where ideas move at a different pace. Hearts beats faster. Search University of Hertfordshire to find out more.
Rising energy costs are a big worry. Carbon emissions too. That's why EDF is helping build Britain's wind, nuclear and solar energy supply to help prevent energy crises and keep future costs down. Plus, we're the biggest generator of zero-carbon electricity right here in Britain. Find out more about our zero-carbon generation at edfenergy.com/helpingbritain.
Celebrate the Coronation Weekend with 25% off any 6 bottles of wine or fizz priced over £5 at Waitrose. Your extensive choice includes an aromatic San Leo Prosecco, the exceptionally drinkable Provençal Rosé Whispering Angel, a fruity Nightimber Classic Cuvée, and a vividly herby The Ned Sauvignon Blanc. A toast, anyone?
Selected stores and lines, subject to availability. Excludes Scotland, Wales and Jersey.
Experience. It's knowing what a healthy deal looks like. Right now, you can get 2 months free when you take out Saga Health Insurance. You get 24/7 GP access all year round whenever you want it. And the freedom to choose your preferred private hospital and room should you need it. Simply search Saga Health Insurance today and get 2 months free. Saga Health Insurance. Experience is everything. Over 50s only.
2 months free for new customers starting before May 15. Pay by monthly direct debit for the first year. Choose your own hospital by selecting Saga Countrywide Hospital List or London Upgrade.
If you've lost £3,000 or more in a scam or fraud, then tell CEL. CELsolicitors.co.uk specialise in confidential, no-win, no-fee fraud and scam recovery. Whether you were pressured by someone posing as a bank, HMRC or even the police, if you have been scammed, don't let them get away with it. Let us help you try to get your money back. We listen, we care, we win.
Want to get more done? Whether it's moving out, throwing a party, starting a business, or just getting a hedge trimmed to the shape of a unicorn, no questions asked, Airtasker is the app that helps you tick off your to-do list by connecting you to skilled locals. It's as simple as posting a task, choosing a tasker based on their ratings and reviews, and then done. Airtasker. Get more.
At Tesco Mobile, we know everyone likes getting a little extra help. So when you bag an unlimited data SIM for just $22.50 a month with Club Card prices, saving a huge £60, we'll give you £50 worth of Club Card points, letting you fill your boots, bag or basket, or treat yourself to a day out. This is Supermarket Mobile. Search Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Ends 21st of May. Was £25. Club Card 24-month contract and unlocked 4G phone required. Includes 5,000 Club Card points. Charges and terms at tescomobile.com/terms.
Sheila Fogarty on LBC.
The US has denied outright Russian claims that it masterminded an alleged drone attack on the Kremlin, which we talked about yesterday. The White House said the US had zero involvement at all, saying that the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov was lying, so they didn't hold back. Russia has accused Ukraine of carrying out the alleged attack with Washington's support, saying it was an attempt to assassinate Vladimir Putin. Overnight, there have been air attacks on Ukraine as well. Let's talk to Jade McGlynn about where all of this leaves us and where we're up to with this war. Researcher at King's College London's War Studies Department, who's released a book titled Russia's War. Good afternoon to you, Jade.
Good afternoon, Sheila.
Have you been expecting this kind of tit-for-tat allegation?
Well, I suppose in the sense that it's pretty standard and it fits into the broader Kremlin narrative that Ukraine has no agency and, it's the West who's orchestrating Ukraine's attacks and it's the West that's sort of controlling Ukraine.
And how do you read the war at the moment and, particularly from the Russian perspective?
There's a nervousness. Everybody's waiting for the counteroffensive, and there's a lot of tension within society, certainly among the people that I speak to and that I've been speaking to sort of since 2014 to gauge Russian kind of, I suppose, attitudes towards Ukraine. And in particular, that's because there's a lot of this sort of hortatory, I'm creating words now, there's a lot of this aggressive rhetoric towards Ukraine, particularly at the moment, about, we need to, bring down the terrorists, etc., etc. But often there's a feeling that the government's rhetoric and actually what the government does, or perhaps better said, the outcomes that the government gets or the Russian army gets for what it's doing, they don't match up. And so there's increasingly sort of a sense of a very black and not particularly pleasant humour that can be found, for example, on Russian social media groups around the idea of that Russia isn't properly prosecuting this war.
Is that because pro-war expectations or pro-Russian expectations were that this would be a fast and decisive victory in the east, at least, of Ukraine, and it simply hasn't been?
Yes, exactly. And I would also say that it even runs a bit deeper than that, because the attitudes towards Ukraine, the idea that Ukrainians really are Russians, and one quote that sticks in my mind is, yes, they're Ukrainians now, but we'll put on Russian television and then they'll be Russian. That really runs through. And I think it's very difficult for ordinary Russians to grasp how much Ukrainians very much do not see themselves as Russians.
And you talked about the counteroffensive. Do you mean the Ukrainian counteroffensive?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sorry, I mean the Ukrainian counteroffensive.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder how limited that can be. It certainly won't be largely on Russian soil, will it? It will be on Ukrainian soil in that battle zone. How far does that stretch now, the battle zone, where things are still to play for?
Mm-hmm. So it's still among the south and the east. I mean, in terms, of course, things are still going on. There's still this horrific Stalingrad-esque fighting that's going on in Bakhmut, which has really just become this horrible battle of attrition, and there is no Bakhmut really anymore. I think most people are expecting that there will be a focus around trying to liberate the left bank of Kherson, of the Dnieper River in Kherson. But that said, last autumn, the Ukrainians really surprised everybody, and there's such tight security. I just got back from Kiev, and there's such tight security around the counteroffensive. About four people know what's going to happen. Yes, yeah. And I'm afraid I'm not one of them.
You're not one of them, okay. And if you were, you couldn't tell us, I'm sure.
No, I wouldn't.
Yes. And Jade, on the whole question, your book title is Russia's War. It's such a closed place to most of us, isn't it? What can you tell us about the Russian people on this? I mean, clearly there are mothers and fathers who are demented with worry and concern for their young sons and daughters as well, I guess, being conscripted and the like. But is Russian society still, to what degree is it really understanding this war?
I think the reason for the title is to say that this isn't just the war of one man alone, but it is also to make a nod to that fact that Russians really are watching or are interpreting this war in a different way. It's a different war almost for them that they're experiencing. And I think your point there about imagining sort of how mothers or fathers are feeling is a helpful approach, because whilst it's quite hard to feel, well, it's almost impossible to feel sympathy for people who in Russia who agree with this war and approve of this war, it's important that we try to have empathy in that sense of understanding why. Not because we have to like it, but because it needs to inform our policy. And whilst it's very easy emotionally to say, oh no, they're all evil, and to not have to do that, or to say, oh, it's just one man, and once we get rid of him, it'll all be fixed. I mean, I understand the temptations of both, of course, but they're just not going to lead to informed policy. And I think we have this binary in the West in general about how we understand dictatorships, but particularly with Russia, that people are either these courageous opponents of the war, or they're these evil sort of bloodthirsty types, and both types are unrepresentative, and most people are somewhere in between, and they think, well, I don't know, the West lies, Russia lies, or I don't know, but I'm Russian, I've got one country and my country's being attacked. And in their view, of course, that's not true, but or at least maybe some of those narratives do resonate. Maybe they feel that Ukrainians are traitors for not wanting to be part of Russia. There's a whole spectrum of opinions, and I think it's really important to remember that nuance, just because at some point we're going to have to face the fact that it isn't just one man, and we're going to have to deal with the issue.
Yeah, and the question of who comes after Putin is clearly high in people's minds as well, isn't it? Thank you, Jade McGlynn, researcher at King's College London's War Studies Department. If you want to check out her book, it's called Russia's War. Let's get back to your calls on anti-Semitism and education. Lucy has called from Lambeth. Hello, Lucy.
Oh, hi, Sheila. How are you today?
I'm okay, thank you. Yes, yeah.
Good, good. A pleasure to talk to you. I listen to you most days. I was compelled to phone in after an experience I had this weekend at a wedding. And it was a lovely do, very, very posh. And during the evening, they had like a box of like dressing up, and you could go and put on whatever you wanted, like
and have your picture taken in the booth.
Exactly, yeah, that's the one. And during the course of the evening, I looked over, and one of the guests had on a sort of Orthodox Jew hat with the sort of the ringlets attached to it, and was wearing a beard. And I thought, that doesn't sit right with me at all. I wanted to know, was the box provided by the place we were at, or had somebody brought it in? I just wanted to know where it had come from, because I wanted to question whether they thought that was appropriate or not. So basically, I went and I spoke to the chap that had it on, and this time he'd actually taken it off. And I just said, where did you get this from? And he was just like, this box of, fancy dress or whatever. And I said, do you think that's appropriate? And he was like, I'm not sure really. I said, and he was like, I'm so sorry, are you Jewish? And I said, no, I'm not Jewish. I said, but I'm anti-racist. And I said, and I find that really offensive. And I wouldn't be surprised if other people do as well. And I said, I kind of just want it gone. So he then went and got his mother, who was the mother of the bride, and she came over and she started getting she's quite aggressive towards me.
What do you mean this wedding isn't perfect? Get out of here. And don't take any cake on the way out.
Go away, would you? She started. I'm sorry, I hadn't thought about that.
Don't mess with the mother of the bride.
She was pretty forceful, I have to say.
Go on.
But she got really funny with me and was just like, you're overreacting, you're being too sensitive. And I said, I really don't think I am. I said, this has a lot of connotations. So I said, I'm deeply offended by it. I said, I just wanted it gone, but I wanted to know who it came from. And it was just a really uncomfortable situation. And I did actually get quite upset about it, because I think when you put yourself out there like that, you
can't tell what reaction you're going to get, can you?
Exactly. And because I saw it, I couldn't unsee it, so I had to do something. And I've always promised myself, if I ever felt somebody was prejudiced or homophobic or racist or anything, I'd always call them out, always stand up for them. And it was quite an uncomfortable situation. My partner ended up, where we had it was in like an old building and had a moat around it, and he ended up flinging it like a frisbee, and then it was just floating on the moat.
Oh, you took some direct action, Lucy. Well, good on you. Thank you very much indeed. I can imagine that was uncomfortable, but you did it. You stood by your principles. Thank you. Melanie says in this text, I think she's right, I wholeheartedly agree that mainstream media, including radio and television, sometimes should all have anti-racism training, not just about anti-Semitism. We clearly see and hear microaggressions, bias, tropes for all marginalised communities within the media, and it has a huge influence on everyone. I think everyone needs educating all the time about most things. The news is next.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 2 o'clock, President Zelensky has accused Russia of carrying out thousands of war crimes in Ukraine in April alone. He's been speaking at the International Criminal Court in The Hague, which has already issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin. The address follows Moscow's claims that Kyiv and the US were behind a drone strike on the Kremlin. Lee Reaney is editor of the English-language magazine Lviv Today.
Think tanks that have come out and said that this likely is a Russian false flag attack. The easiest way you can tell this is because of the immediate and coordinated response that the Russians had. Normally, when something embarrassing happens, to the Russian military, they take time to figure out a response. But this was rather immediate. It was immediate.
The family of a woman who was stabbed to death in Brixton on Monday say their hearts are completely broken. 31-year-old Jonita Kosawa-Dogby was attacked in Stockwell Park Walk. Police have been given more time to question a 33-year-old man on suspicion of murder. It's not believed they knew each other. The UK's competition watchdog has started a review of the artificial intelligence market. The Competition and Markets Authority will look at the systems behind tools such as ChatGPT. Regulators around the world are working to catch up with rapidly advancing AI technology. Heathrow says it's operating as normal despite security staff going on strike. Around 1,400 Unite members, mostly at Terminal 5, have walked out for 3 days over pay. The airport says no flights have been cancelled. And Commons Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle has told LBC that all eyes will be on London for the King's coronation. International dignitaries, including political leaders and European royals, are due to arrive in the UK ahead of Saturday's ceremony. Some of the final military rehearsals are taking place this afternoon. Sir Lindsay says it will be an opportunity for people to unite, whether they're interested in the event or not.
You may not be a royalist, but you're certainly going to end up enjoying a bank holiday weekend. That's what it's about. This is about celebrations. This is about coming together. And I've got to say, this will hopefully give people a new vision, new hope, new aspirations, bringing joy, family relationships, people getting together.
In the city a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was trading down 56 points at 77.32. The pound buys $1.25 and €1.13. LBC weather, showers moving northeastwards across southwestern parts of the UK. Dry elsewhere with rain easing in the far north, a high of 20 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Amelia Cox.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Sheila Fogarty.
Hello there, good afternoon to you. If you're just joining us, if you listen to the first hour, I think there's an element of the theme that we talked about in relation to anti-Semitism that, in a sense, is connected to what I want to talk about this hour as well. And by that, I mean, you know, we heard when I spoke to Dave Rich at the beginning of the first hour of the programme, Dave Rich of the Community Security Trust, he was talking about how those old anti-Semitic tropes about, oh, well, you know, Jews have all the power and they have all the money and they get it by nefarious ways and they control everything. So it's okay to speak ill of them. It's okay for tough stuff to happen to them because, you know, they've got loads of money and they've got loads of success. That's an anti-Semitic trope. And I've had a caller last week who indulged himself in it. Not for long, got rid of him. But, you know, you can't... You can't get away from the fact that that is something that has been used routinely against Jewish people, and still is. And I think there was something of it. I want to be clear, I'm not suggesting here that the author of the article I have in front of me, Kezia Dugdale, former a very senior politician in Scottish politics, I'm not suggesting for a second she's anti-Semitic, because this story is unrelated to anti-Semitism. It's this connectivity of the attitude that I want to get to. I hope I'm not overcomplicating things. She's written a piece in the Courier, Evening Telegraph in Scotland, about Joanna Cherry and the case of the SNP MP being cancelled from an event, and the whole event, in fact, being cancelled because staff at the event disagree with her views on trans rights and on her own gender-critical views. And Kezia Dugdale has written a piece in which she begins by praising her erstwhile political rival. But she then goes on to say, I mean, she praises her a great deal about her achievements and her political acumen and her success in life and all of that. But she goes on to say that she finds her tactics around the trans rights issues to be cynical and manipulative. Now, again, as a politician, former politician, she's of course free to hold that view. I happen to think she's wrong about that view, but that's fine. You know, that's just disagreeing. But she concludes in this piece that far from Joanna Cherry being silenced at this event, being disinvited from the event by it being cancelled simply because of her views, not the views of any other guests who've ever been questioned and interviewed, at this Edinburgh Festival venue. Only Joanna Cherry. She says there's no way this woman is being cancelled. How can she be? She's on the television, she's on the radio, she's writing newspaper articles about her experiences. There's no way she can be a victim. What she is someone who thinks that when she speaks, people have to listen. And it took my breath away when I read that. It really took my breath away when I read that, the conclusion, as much as anything, to Kezia Dugdale's article. Because the very same thing happened to me during the court hearing for the person who was stalking me, had been stalking me for 3 years. And his lawyer said in the court, this woman, me, can't be a victim. She has her own radio show, she writes in national newspapers, she speaks on television about this matter and other matters. She's no victim, right? So that was his approach, the lawyer in the case of my hearing for stalking. And at the time it struck me, I just thought, God, that is the career version of, well, what was she wearing when she was sexually assaulted? What was she wearing? Short skirt? Well, she wore a short skirt, should you? Had she drunk any wine? Well, I think it's all in the same ballpark. It's all about saying, I will not let you be wronged. I've decided that you are too powerful, too clever, too successful, whatever, land on any word you want. Too powerful, too clever, too successful, too something, to be a victim of anything. And I was really shocked by it, I have to say. Let's take a listen again to a bit of the conversation that Joanna Cherry had with LBC's Gina Davidson on Tuesday. Just take a listen.
From the moment I stuck my head above the parapet on this issue in the spring of 2019, I've faced abuse, threats, attempts to smear me, and I've also received a rape threat from a member of the SNP, actually, who was convicted of doing that. And I'm going to court again in the summer to give evidence against a trans rights activist who threatened to murder me. I think it is a modern McCarthyism because of what's happening to women. My point is that because I'm a politician, it's quite hard to get rid of me, really, unless I'm deselected or my constituents decide that they want someone else to represent them at the next general election. So I do continue to have a platform. So it's very important that I should call the stand out on their discrimination, and that I should use my platform, not for my sake, but to protect the thousands of women across the United Kingdom who are facing this sort of discrimination because they don't agree that any man can become a woman simply by saying that he's a woman.
Now, The Stand is the venue in Edinburgh. She was due to appear there. She had been invited to go there to talk about her political career. And other guests have included people like Jeremy Corbyn, big political figures who clearly will have opponents who disagree with their views, or in the case of Jeremy Corbyn, think he didn't do enough about anti-Semitism in the party, or maybe even believe he opened the door to deepen anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. But nobody's asked for that event to be cancelled. Nobody, you know what I mean? There's a difference. And I don't think that the names are now stacking up of women like Joanna Cherry. The names are stacking up of women. I mean, maybe I'm risking my neck talking like this on the radio, I don't know. But I'm going to risk it all the same. Can you not see, and this is a direct question to Kezia Dugdale, actually, can you not see that by dressing up, cancelling that event because some people disagreed with Joanna Cherry's view on trans activism and the biology around it all, can you not see that it doesn't take long before that happens to you or to somebody else or to another woman? It doesn't take long before, maybe even as a response to what's happened to Joanna Cherry, someone else makes an event at that venue an impossibility by protesting so forcefully that it can't happen, such as we saw at Edinburgh University and that film Adult Human Female. We reach a point, I think, quite quickly where we can't hold events, we can't have discussions, we can't disagree with one another without it becoming point of war almost between us. And what stuns me about the Kezia Dugdale conclusion and her article, that Joanna Cherry isn't really being wronged because she's still got her voice. She's still on the radio. She's still on the telly. She's still in the papers. Well, you wait your turn, Kezia Dugdale. If that's what the world is going to turn into, you wait your turn, and it'll happen to you. And then, how would you feel if I come on the radio and say, well, Kezia, tough. You've still got your job as a professor of something. You've still got your job where you write articles in the Telegraph, in the Courier. Tough that you've been cancelled. Tough that somebody has protested so vehemently that you can't walk into a particular room that you want to walk into to view a film or to have a conversation with a person. Tough. I wouldn't say tough to you. I would defend you. And you haven't defended Joanna Cherry. You've actually thrown her to the wolves, is what you've done. And you've actually, I think, done a really egregious act, woman to woman. The idea that a woman about another woman would say she's too powerful to be a victim of anything. That is the short skirt defence. Kezia Dugdale, feminist, lesbian, campaigner, activist. That's what you've just done. You've done the short skirt defence to Joanna Cherry. That she is too clever, too powerful, too much of a voice for anyone to possibly harm her position. That can't be true. It isn't true morally, and it isn't true in law either. Dr. Michael Foran joins me, lecturer in public law at the University of Glasgow, specialising in equality law and constitutional theory. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
It is quite a thing that Kezia Dugdale has done, it seems to me.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think it also betrays ignorance of precisely what's happened here. I mean, I think based on the facts that we have, it's quite clear that Joanna Cherry and or her producer have been subject to unlawful discrimination.
And when people say, and it's not just Kezia Dugdale saying it, Twitter is alive with this as well, when people say, well, the event hasn't been cancelled to silence her, the event has been cancelled because we can't staff it, that screams disingenuous to me. What does the law say about if staff say I can't work this because they don't like that person? I mean, that's the thin end of a rather risky wedge, isn't it?
Oh, it is, and the law itself is quite clear on this. So I think one of the things to be aware of here is that the law protects people from being discriminated against on the basis of a whole host of protected characteristics. And regardless of which protected characteristic you have, the legal rules are the same. So because Joanna Cherry is protected under the heading of philosophical belief, which is the belief that she has that's protected in law, is that sex is real, that it can't be changed, and that this matters, and that it matters particularly for women. That's the belief that's protected. So Joanna Cherry cannot be discriminated against on the basis of her holding that belief. And what's happened here is that...
And just if I may, just to press pause on that, in the way that, for example, she could be held to account in this way if she was about to spout racist views on that stage.
Yes, absolutely. So if she was a Nazi, or if she had extreme views that are not worthy of respect in a democratic society, she wouldn't have a protected characteristic of philosophical belief, and so she wouldn't be able to bring any kind of discrimination claim. But in this case, she absolutely does have the protected characteristic of philosophical belief, and we know that the staff here have taken issue specifically with her views and have refused to service the event in that context. And we know that if you were to replace the protected characteristic of philosophical belief with something like race, the law is extremely clear. The fact that your staff refuse to service someone of a particular race is not an excuse for you discriminating against that person. The law is very clear that if you're a service provider, you are under an obligation not to discriminate against people on the basis of the protected characteristics, and the fact that your staff want to discriminate against that person is simply not a justification.
So this is shades of the cake shop in Northern Ireland, isn't it?
Kind of, but not quite. So the cake shop case in Northern Ireland is an interesting one, because in that case, the service provider here, the Asher's Bakery, were not refusing to service a particular customer because of any characteristic that they had.
But it was their own religious beliefs.
Yeah. So what was happening in that case was that the bakery refused to provide a particular service. They said, we'll sell you a wedding cake, but we're not going to sell you a cake that has this particular message on it. So the analogy here is actually a different case. So the case that we're thinking about here is called Bowl and Hall, which is to do with a B&B owner that refused to provide a double room for a same-sex couple. And in that context, that was deemed to be unlawful discrimination. They can't refuse to do that because it's based on the characteristic of the customer. And in this case, Joanna Cherry is being discriminated against because of the views that she holds, which are protected in law under the protected characteristic of philosophical belief.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I do think it's potentially the thin end of a rather dangerous wedge where, anyone who wants to can look at who the Stand or any other public venue is hiring to give a talk or to be interviewed and, protest so loudly, in such big numbers that the event can't go ahead. We've seen this kind of thing happen already. Or staff might say, oh, well, actually, I'm a lifelong Tory. I'm not having Jeremy Corbyn on the stage. I'm going to refuse to come to work.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, the heckler's veto is seen as something that we recognise within free speech literature, is that it's not protected as legitimate expressions of free speech. But we also know that even if you had all of those claims, there are additional obligations in law for service providers like the Stand not to discriminate. It doesn't matter if your staff are racist, you can't refuse service to a person of colour. It doesn't matter if your staff are transphobic, you can't refuse service to someone who is protected under the characteristic of gender reassignment. And it doesn't matter if your staff vehemently disagree with Joanna Cherry's views, you cannot refuse service to her on the basis of those views.
And so when some trans people I spotted in an engagement with you this morning on Twitter were saying, well, hang on a second, we should be protected in a similar way. What does the law say about that?
Well, they absolutely are protected.
Yeah, I thought so.
Trans people are protected under the protected characteristic of gender reassignment. They are entitled not to be discriminated against in their place of work. They're entitled not to be harassed in their place of work as well. But what's happening here is that some people are conflating the views that Joanna Cherry holds with the act of harassment. And so they're saying, well, if Joanna Cherry had come into this venue and started shouting abuse at people, she could be denied service. And of course that's true, but she's not being denied service in this context because of that. She's being denied service in this context because she holds protected philosophical beliefs. So the analogy that's being run here, that somehow the staff at this venue are in danger or unsafe because Joanna Cherry holds views in her head that they disagree with, is completely unfounded as a legal defence to the kinds of unlawful discrimination that has happened in this case.
It's also rather feeble, isn't it? Because, again, as a result of me tweeting about this morning, someone in my defence said, well, Sheila has to listen to views of people every day that she finds offensive because of the job I do. And I don't. Actually, there are very few views that I find offensive. I may disagree wholeheartedly with people, but I don't find them offensive. Clearly some things I find offensive, like the things you would expect any decent thinking person to find offensive. But just because somebody vehemently disagrees with me about something religious or ethical or political or social, it doesn't alarm me. And we've reached a point where where in some quarters of our society it's too alarming to bear, almost.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we're seeing here as well is that some people think that anti-discrimination law or equality law is a cudgel or a sword that you can use to beat other people up with, and that's simply not true. Anti-discrimination law is a shield against wrongful forms of discrimination. You can't rely on it as justification for treating people in a way that's prohibited under the Equality Act. The Equality Act is built around a very careful balance between a whole host of different protected characteristics, including, religious beliefs and philosophical beliefs that people are going to find that they disagree with or that they may even find offensive. But we live in a pluralistic democracy where diversity is an important value. And it's very strange that you see in the name of diversity and equality and inclusion, people think it's acceptable to engage in unlawful and wrongful discrimination against people because of their legally protected views.
Thank you very much for clarification on the law there, Dr. Michael Foran, lecturer in public law at the University of Glasgow. Your calls in a moment. It's 2:20.
LBC.
Are rising costs forcing you into unaffordable debt? An individual voluntary arrangement from CreditFix could help. Write off up to 81% of your unsecured debt with manageable repayments and or interest and charges frozen. With over 14,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot, CreditFix could help you to a brighter financial future. Just text DEBT to 66777. Text DEBT to 66777 now. Terms apply. May not be suitable for all. Can affect credit rating. Free advice at moneyhelper.org.uk.
Get ready for the coronation weekend and feel the power to lower prices with Tesco Club Card. Just scan your Club Card or app.
Club Card accepted.
And boom.
Club Card accepted.
The prices go down. Like 25% off 6 or more bottles of wine, such as 19 Crimes Rosé or Tesco Finest Garvey. Tesco. Every little helps. Drink aware 18 plus. Majority of larger stores. Ends 8th of May. Club card or app required.
Paramount Plus is a mountain of entertainment for only $6.99 a month. Stream the iconic Yellowstone.
I'm doing this for our family.
New Kiefer Sutherland spy thriller Rabbit Hole.
I can't tell what's real and what's not.
The box office smash Smile. And brilliant sci-fi drama La Brea.
Where the hell are we?
Feeling flaky? No problem. You can cancel anytime and we're completely ad-free. Except for this one. Blockbusters, originals and iconic shows all on Paramount Plus. Join now. T's and C's apply. Subscription required and 18 plus. Auto renews at $6.99 per month unless cancelled. Price subject to change.
I just sold my car.
Weren't you going to part exchange?
I was, but who knew you could get a bigger discount on your next car if you sell to We Buy Any Car? Just sold my car to We Buy Any Car.
Just sold my car to We Buy Any Car. Just sold my car to We Buy Any Car.
To find out how much your car's worth in 30 seconds, enter your reg number now at WeBuyAnyCar.com. Admin fee may apply. For more information, visit WeBuyAnyCar.com/info.
Like Aldi to help one celebrate the coronation in style. Branded big pack beers from just $10.99. British strawberry gin liqueur only $8.99. And Prosecco Spumante DOC just $5.99. And did you know Aldi was crowned too? Oh yes, officially which cheapest supermarket of the year?
This coronation weekend, Morrison's are helping you get your Brit on with 25% off when you buy 6 or more bottles of wine. So whether you're raising a toast to the king or just celebrating the long weekend, we've got a glass of something for you. Majority of stores subject to availability. T's and C's and exclusions apply. Max cap applies. See online or in store for details. Ends 8th of May. Excludes Scotland. Please drink responsibly.
When it comes to helping those that really need it, actions speak louder than words. So here's what we've been doing at British Gas. Over the past year, we've given £50 million in energy debt support, including grants to help with bills. And we're keeping homes powered with emergency energy credit. That's enough talking. Let's get on with the doing. British Gas. Eligibility criteria apply.
Sheila Fogarty on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
I've got 2 questions for you, really. One is it fair to suggest that Joanna Cherry or any other woman or person can't be a victim of discrimination because she's successful and has a life that's sometimes in public, successfully? Does that mean nothing wrong can ever be done to her? I would say no. You tell me. And when did we stop being able to bear each other's views? I mean, is it because I grew up in a big family that I can bear other people's views? Is it because I was a BBC journalist for 25 years and your whole life was about other people's views and certainly not your own at the time? Maybe that's helped me exercise some muscles that people don't typically, I don't know. But we seem to be losing the capacity to... You don't have to like other people's views, and you can absolutely argue against. You should argue against other people's views if you're passionate about a subject. But when did we stop being able to bear each other's views at all, and just want to remove people from our presence or from our ears if we didn't like what they were saying? You know, you can always, of course, you don't have to listen to anybody, but stopping them from saying something because you don't like it. No, I'm not talking about illegal stuff now. I'm talking about just views. When did we stop being able to do that? Bear each other's opinions when they were different to our own? 0345 6060 973. Lucy has called from Tooting. Hello, Lucy.
Hello,
Hi, Sheila. How are you?
Okay,
How are you?
Thank you. Yes, yeah. So, tell me what you want to say.
I think you're absolutely spot on. I know Joanna Cherry. I know her quite well, and I've seen firsthand the impact that she has experienced because of the actions of the trans activists in cancelling her. And for Kezia Dugdale to say, essentially, well, she's too powerful to be cancelled, what she's actually saying is, look, Joanna Cherry, shut up. Yes, you have been cancelled from this event, but do not go on TV, do not speak to newspapers, shut up. And I think that's absolutely atrocious. Now, this is a woman who, you played back the interview yourself with her, where she talked about getting death threats, having to go to court with evidence against someone who's made a threat against her. And this isn't just Joanna Cherry who has to put up with this. We also know the MP Rosie Duffield, who's the Labour MP for Canterbury. This is a woman who can't even walk around her constituency at the moment because of the threats that she receives from trans activists. So it's women who are trying to do their best, who are trying to represent their members and their constituents, who are being told, unfortunately in this case by another woman, to shut their mouth. Simply for daring to say that in some situations, on some occasions, biological men should not be allowed to be on their own spaces. And for that, we're seeing people like Joanna Cherry, Rosie Duffield receiving death threats, rape threats, being cancelled, and it's utterly shameful.
Not being supported by Mandate Party leadership.
Well, absolutely. Shame on Keir Starmer, shame on the Labour Party for how they've totally thrown Rosie Duffield under the bus. You may have seen the scenes in the House of Commons a few weeks ago where she stood up to speak about the experience of women within this debate, and she had Labour MPs barking at her. It's absolutely outrageous.
And then one of them standing and calling her a bigot.
Absolutely. It's absolutely shameful. Now, again, for Kezia Dugdale, who I believe is a lesbian herself, and she's also female, to say that Joanna Cherry is too powerful to be cancelled, I would ask for this. I was cancelled, or attempts were made to cancel me. I used to work for the London Fire Brigade as a firefighter, and Stonewall, we all know Stonewall, they didn't agree with what I was saying. I was openly talking about why I was against the Gender Recognition Act, I was against the proposals to reform self-ID. Stonewall contacted my employer, the London Fire Brigade, and I know this because I've done a subject information request and I've seen the emails. They contacted the London Fire Brigade. They demanded a meeting with the London Fire Brigade, which took place, and they demanded that I was sacked from my job. And in their words, and I've seen this in the email, that I needed to be dealt with. Now, I'm a black working-class lesbian, so I clearly wasn't too powerful to be cancelled, and for this very large, wealthy organisation to come for my job. And I think that is the risk all women face.
Were you supported in your job? Subsequently?
Well, luckily, and maybe luckily is the wrong word, by the time the London Fire Brigade had the meeting with Stonewall, I'd actually left my job 2 weeks before. They didn't know that at the time. Stonewall didn't know that. I'd left my job to become a barrister. But again, they didn't know that. They had the meeting under the assumption that I was still with them. So had the London Fire Brigade supported me or not, I don't know. I do know that my chambers where I am at now very much do support me, and they would send Stonewall away with a flea in their ear, rightly so, if that was to happen again. But this has happened time and time again. It happened to me, it happened to Alison Bailey, as we know, also a black lesbian.
And when, because, you know, I want whenever I talk about this, I want trans people to call and talk as well. And because, of course, not all trans people think the same any more than you and I, Lucy, think the same. You know, this is the danger of any discussion like this, isn't it? And what you know, it's clearly good people calling the programme say, you know, when, you know, reasonable people, they call the programme and talk about the worry that they have that if public voices, say MPs or whatever it is, or me on the radio, whatever it is, wherever it happens, if those public voices question the sort of some trans thinking on this, trans activism thinking on this, what they hear or what they fear will happen is that the world will become even more anti-trans or ignorant about the trans experience than it already is, and it is, and we absolutely need to change that. But that's their fear. What would you say to perhaps soothe that fear?
People like Joanna Cherry, Rosie Duffield, J.K. Rowling, people who speak out on this subject, they are clearly not anti-trans. Just please pay attention to what they're actually saying. And what they're actually saying is, in some situations, some circumstances, such as female-only sports, female prisons, female rape rescue centres, we need to keep them female sex only, and we need to be able to exclude biological men. Now, we go further, actually, and we say it is absolutely pointless, and it works against the trans community when you're lumping them in with females, because trans women, trans men, have very, very different needs to people who are trans. A trans woman has totally different needs to me. A trans woman does not need a smear test. A trans woman has different health needs, likely have different mental health needs, etc. So that's what we need to be focusing on. We need to be focusing on specific services that meet the needs of trans women and trans men.
And women. You know, as in, just get the realities in a row. Get the real realities in a row and make sure that everyone's okay.
Absolutely, and importantly, stop demonising women. We see the abuse that Joanna Cherry puts up with, J.K. Rowling puts up with, Rosie Duffield puts up with. If they're not able to walk the street safely without thinking that they're going to be attacked, what hope is there for someone like me, a black lesbian who walks along the street and has Stonewall, a multi-million-pound company, paid for by the taxpayer, by the way, coming for someone like me?
Okay, Lucy, I'm going to leave it there for time reasons. Thank you very much indeed for your call, Lucy, in Tooting. More of your calls after the news headlines. It's 2:32. Amelia Cox has an update.
The US has denied any involvement in a supposed assassination attempt on Vladimir Putin. Russia is now claiming Washington instructed Kyiv to attack the Kremlin with drones. Both Ukraine and the US say they weren't responsible. Israel's military claims it's killed 2 Palestinian gunmen responsible for the deaths of a British-Israeli woman and her 2 daughters. Lucy Meyer and Rena D died in a gun attack last month. And Britain's competition watchdog is starting a review of the AI market, including chatbots such as ChatGPT. The Competition and Markets Authority will look at the opportunities and risks of artificial intelligence. LBC weather, showers moving northeastwards across southwestern parts of the UK. Dry elsewhere with rain easing in the far north, a high of 20 degrees.
This is LBC.
This coronation weekend, why not try juicy New York-style beef burgers, fiery harissa halloumi kebabs, tender chimichurri bavette steaks, or succulent chicken tikka breast kebabs? Delicious. They're all part of the mouth-watering Waitrose barbecue range, and you can now enjoy 2 for £8 on selected barbecue products in-store and online. Make it a sizzling celebration with Waitrose's barbecue offer. Waitrose, food to feel good about.
Selected stores and lines, subject to availability. Efficiently. It's how we work at Swale Heating, now and in the future. You can trust us to keep you fully up to date with the latest innovations. Those that exist now, like air source heat pumps, photovoltaic panels, and biomass boilers, and the technologies for tomorrow's world, such as hydrogen-ready boilers. Because we learn from yesterday and we live for tomorrow. Visit swaleheating.com. Rely on us to keep you warm.
Fever Tree Mediterranean Tonic Water. Made with zesty lemon thyme from a small family farm in Provence and essential oils from herbs that grow in the Mediterranean sunshine. So, if 3/4 of your G&T is a Fever Tree tonic, maybe it's time to call it a T&G. Fever Tree. Mix with the best. Ooh, that takes me straight to the med.
With Pension B, you can combine, contribute and withdraw online. We helped Andrew bring multiple workplace pensions together into one new online plan.
I chose Pension B because I was looking for a way to consolidate a large number of pensions. It was really easy to sign up. I had to enter my details.
We're making pensions simple so everyone can look forward to a happy retirement. Be pension confident. Join at pensionbee.com. When investing, capital is at risk.
Celebrate the Coronation Weekend with 25% off any 6 bottles of wine or fizz priced over £5 at Waitrose. Your extensive choice includes an aromatic San Leo Prosecco, the exceptionally drinkable Provençal Rosé Whispering Angel, a fruity Nightimber Classic Cuvée, and a vividly herby The Ned Sauvignon Blanc. A toast, anyone?
Selected stores and lines, subject to availability. Excludes Scotland, Wales and Jersey.
Sheila Fogarty on LBC.
Let me read a couple of texts that have come in the last half hour or so. Julie says, this isn't only about finding views offensive, it's about real hate crimes that trans people experience. Yep, which I alluded to in my last conversation. I applaud you. Thank you for covering this again and for standing up for women like Joanna Cherry. Should Catholic staff have to work at a pro-abortion event? Should Muslim women have to work closely with men unwillingly? Says Julie in Suffolk. Oh, I'd need more solid examples than that, I think, Julie. Davida has called from Preston. Hello, Davida.
Hello, Sheila. Now, listen, Sheila, me and you disagree on many things, but on this issue, I have literally punched the air, right, in support of you.
Right.
You're doing a fantastic job explaining it properly, and I couldn't be more behind you, so well done you.
Well, thank you. And what's all this about you disagreeing with me most of the rest of the time?
Well, 70% of the time, I'm not sure, but on this thing, look, let's focus on this.
All right.
You are absolutely 100% copper-bottomed correct.
And to me, it shouldn't be difficult to fix this, because it is about everybody having space to talk.
Absolutely right. And look, I think that people who argue with you, like there's a guy, I listened to you yesterday about it, or maybe it was the day before yesterday, but there was a guy came on, and he sounded like a youngish chap, but he was disagreeing with you, saying, well, trans people are so marginalised, and there's this percentage rate of suicide amongst them, blah, blah, blah. But that's not a reason you can use to stop people expressing their own views in public. Because down that road lies madness.
Yeah, I do. And I know the call that you're alluding to. And for the most part, and forgive me, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but for the most part, he agreed that all of us, him, me, you, all of us, have the right within the law to speak how we wish to speak and to say what we wish to say without being, with impunity, essentially. And yet at the end, he was saying the fear people have is that if Joanna Cherry at that event was asked about her views on the Gender Recognition Act, she would say things that might lead to a trans person being hurt. Now, that isn't, none of us wants anybody to be hurt. But you can't say to somebody, you can't open your mouth legally and politically just in case somebody interprets what you say as a reason to go and punch someone. That's inventing a reason to not listen to somebody rather than it being a good reason to not listen to somebody.
I agree. Now, listen, I think I'll finish up here. I think there's a difference, and there's a very clear stretch of water between actual trans people and trans activists. This is the problem. Did you ever see the interview with Morgan Freeman, the black American actor? He was interviewed a couple of years ago, and the interviewer said to him, "What should we do about racism in America?" And Morgan Freeman's reply was, "Stop talking about it."
I don't agree with him on that, but anyway, I have seen that interview. I saw it the other day, weirdly, Davida. He essentially says there's no reason now in modern America for a black person not to get up, go and make a life, and just get on with it. I think that's rather too simplistic, but yeah, are you saying that's kind of how you feel about being trans?
I think trans people would just rather just get on with their lives without all this background noise going on.
Yeah, potentially. But I also think that people who aren't trans and don't know trans people probably do need to hear from them and do need to hear that it's a reality for people, and it's something that the world needs to get used to.
But what we don't want to segue into is cancellation of opinions.
No, is all-out war and cancelling each other's opinions, yeah. But I've got no problem with hearing trans voices and listening to people who are trans and their experience. And if they want to campaign about those issues, absolutely fine. I mean, you might not want to. Your position is, oh, God, let me get on with it, leave me alone, and I get that too. But, you can't start saying to somebody, you can speak, but you can't.
No way. I wish you a very good afternoon.
And you too, Davida. Thank you very much indeed for your call. That's Davida calling from Preston in Lancashire. Paul has called from Newcastle. Hi, Paul.
Hiya. Not to make it sort of like too simplistic, but what happens to people is when you start putting yourself in little boxes and things, once you start limiting your identity, you subconsciously you limit your intellect, so then you start attacking other people because of the difference or whatever. Instead of accepting differences, you start attacking them, not realising subconsciously you're addressing your bias. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, yeah. So you don't meet a person and engage with that person first. You meet that trans person or that female person or that gay person or that black person or...
There you go. So I would understand what Morgan Freeman was saying to a certain degree. He was saying, well, the big picture is the whole identity thing, is it? So if you stop putting black and white and whatever, and we start talking about human beings, in a sense of it would take a generation to change, wouldn't it, to get all kids to say, I'm part of the cosmos, I'm resident of Earth, and that's it. And then everything else is different, which is great, because there's 8 billion people, and we're all different, and there'll never be another you, and there'll never be another me.
Yeah, I mean, that's great, but we also know that there are realities where, for example, colour might hold you back, wrapped up in poverty, wrapped up in prejudice. These are real things. They're not things that people are inventing, are they?
No, and then that's the idea. Was the reason why somebody brings that up is because they have limited their own intellect. Because of the limiting their identity then, and they're seeing somebody else's identity, so I can't associate with you because we've already got a difference.
Which is why I kicked back at someone on Twitter saying that I had to deal with people whose views were offensive to me every day. I don't find many views offensive at all.
Well, the thing about offence in a sense is you get it as long as I don't respond negatively to the offence. But we should be offended about some things.
Yeah, I am, but not many, to be honest.
Yeah, but the idea of it is I need to respond positively to the offence.
Yeah.
About say, well, let's do something about. If we can do something about poverty, let's do something about it. If we can do something about this, the idea that we're fighting each other, and this idea of separation, because it sums up your whole show. Everything we've talked about is all people seeing things because they're identifying their difference and they're talking about their separation.
Yeah.
We spend more time talking about what differences instead of talking about what we've got in common.
And that's a deeply human trait, isn't it, sadly?
Yeah, because we've got more negative neuropathway than positive, so we always look at that. We always see differences because they see them as a threat.
For safety,
Rather than seeing what we've got in common, we focus on differences. But it does limit you. It does then start to limit your intellect. You can't... So it's accessing cerebral cortex and stuff like that. All that gets a bit complicated, but that's basically it becomes part of like feeling information rather than thinking.
Do you feel it's getting worse, this business of not being able to bear someone else's view?
Yeah, I know whether it's being constructed or whether it's just happening, but there's so many different flags and different people and different things and all these different variants. It's all splitting into smaller and smaller and smaller groups, rather than realising we're just human beings resident on Earth. And then all these differences are great. You've got different coloured eyes to me, you could be trans, you could be tall, you could be short, and all of that's great, which is fantastic. But again, it's identifying people's fears as well. The fact that half the planet, women in a sense, half the planet then associate with minority groups.
Well, thank you, Paul, for your call. That's Paul in Newcastle. It's 2:45.
This is LBC.
In a crisis, service matters. You need an energy supplier you can trust. Which surveyed more than 10,000 energy customers. They independently reviewed the performance of every major supplier. Their in-depth assessment covered customer service, support for those in need, and how well companies dealt with complaints. Only one measured up. Octopus Energy is the only Which recommended energy supplier. Octopus Energy, recommended by Which 6 years running.
The London Bath Company, for bathrooms designed and installed the way they should be. For your free bathroom design, find your nearest showroom at thelondonbath.co.uk.
Technology is always advancing, and with that comes progress. But just how secure are your devices? ESET provides proven protection for both home and businesses with a wide range of antivirus and cybersecurity solutions, so you can relax knowing you're covered wherever you are. Rated excellent on Trustpilot. When technology enables progress, ESET is here to protect it. ESET Digital Security. Progress protected.
Grand flavours overlooking London's Grand River. The Grand Cholan Restaurant, Docklands. Book your lunch or dinner table at grandcholan.com.
Welcome to Abel & Cole, where inconvenience is a good thing. We'll only deliver to your area once a week.
It reduces carbon emissions.
Our food costs a bit more.
We pay farmers fairly.
And our broccoli won't last as long.
Because we don't do preservatives or unnecessary plastic.
An inconvenience store is better for the planet and tastes better too.
Join the thousands of people choosing inconvenience. Search Abel & Cole and order a carbon-neutral grocery delivery today. Difficult tastes better. Abel & Cole.
At B&Q this bank holiday weekend, get 20% off garden furniture and 20% off barbecues. So you can eat, chill, play, repeat all summer long. Shop in-store at DIY.com or on the B&Q app. You can do it. Exclusions and terms and conditions apply. See DIY.com for details.
New is exciting. New destinations, new tastes and smells, new conversations, new landings, new beginnings. The future is pink. Last year, Wizz Air flew over 45 million passengers across our network. That's miles of smiles. Fly from London to over 80 destinations with Wizz Air and discover your unique journey. Check out wizzair.com. Dream more, live more, be more. Wizz Air.
At Tesco Mobile, get the brilliant iPhone 13 with its advanced dual camera, plus 25 gigs of data, so you can share every memory. All for just $34.99 a month with Club Card prices, saving you £198. And thanks to Club Card prices, your contract price will stay frozen. This is Supermarket Mobile. Search Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Ends 21st of May. Was $40.49. Club Card and 36-month credit agreement required. Subject to status and availability. Club Card price frozen for contract duration. Terms at tescomobile.com/terms.
Hello, did you know that the ULEZ is expanding across all London boroughs on the 29th of August this year to help make the air clearer?
Really?
Yeah, I did know that. So, have you checked your vehicle?
Just went online to see about tapped in the registration number, it was compliant.
All you need to do is just search TfL Vehicle Checker to check your vehicle. I'm going to do that. I know you think.
9 out of 10 cars driving in outer London meet the emissions standards. Search TfL Vehicle Checker. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
In a crisis, service matters. Octopus Energy is the only Which recommended energy supplier. Octopus Energy, recommended by Which 6 years running.
This is LBC with Sheila Fogarty. Call 0345 6060 973. Alexa, send a comment to LBC. Text 84850.
Sonia has called from Birmingham. Hello, Sonia.
Oh, hi, Sheila. I think the problem is the government, and I think Rosie Duffield needs something like a private member's bill, because the government passed a law that says your female by declaration of word of mouth, or how you feel. How on earth is that law? You know, the law should be tied that you've had hormones or you've had surgery. You cannot be a female because you feel like it or you declare it. That's beyond.
No, but you can be a trans woman and should be allowed to be a trans woman, and the law does protect that rightly. But the law, I think, is firm enough, isn't it? It's just that the Stand in Edinburgh, the venue that's decided it will yield to the staff who don't like Joanna Cherry's views, has decided not to follow the law. They've decided to break the law.
That's absolutely perverse. But we've got unisex toilets. We've got.
We've had them for a while, to be honest. I mean, I don't think all loos should be unisex. I think, you know, just because we've all been in them. They're awful when men use them.
Safety.
But and it's not even just safety. I just think, in London sometimes for space, there's only one loo in a place. And that's fine. That's not what bothers me particularly. I just don't like the silencing of not just women, the silencing of women that's going on in relation to this. I don't like one bit.
No, I've worked in medical records, and when we have birth certificates, I noticed that there's letters at the end, the old school ones, like A, B, C, D, maybe E at the end. I think we should put a T at the end for trans and give 2 birth certificates. So if you're checking, like, I'm a woman of Scotland who was a male and went into a female prison, when you go through their birth certificates, if they're given 2, you've got the birth certificate you're using and you've got the original birth certificate. You shouldn't have your birth certificate changed. I think there should be issued 2. One will do to one as you originally presented yourself.
Okay. So you think of that. Thank you, Sonia. Sonia in Birmingham. Les has called from Lucia. Hello, Les.
Hello.
What did you want to say?
I just think that the point you're making is extremely sound. I mean, Joanna Cherry's done nothing wrong. She's voices her opinions. Why on earth is any less meritorious than trans activists?
Or anybody else?
Or anybody else. I mean, I think we've fallen into the trap of the activist anti-mantra. You can't do it, you can't say it, you can't be it unless you agree with me, which I think is quite a sad state of affairs in the 21st century.
And do you think it's got worse? I mean, in my lifetime and the people around me and in my 30 years as a journalist, I think it's getting worse.
It's markedly worse, and it's getting worse every day. As you said, you've been a journalist for many, many years. You've interviewed people you probably wouldn't have in your phone group.
Not many, to be honest.
No, you've interviewed a few, because, I mean, at the end of the day, the job you did, you were paid a decent salary, and to be at least an attempt to be unbiased. The fact that because Joanna Cherry says, speaks her mind, and she's not actually inciting anyone to go out and kill a trans person, is she?
She isn't.
No, exactly, you wouldn't. And most people wouldn't. And there are ones out there who would want to do that because they
That's not even talking those terms.
No, they're as sick as what you spoke of the soul of your shoe. But at the end of the day, she's J.K. Rowling. What did she do wrong? She just made an example of what she believed, nothing more. She didn't say you all got to take my opinion, you all got to take my mantra, but the activist decides that if you don't like what we say, we'll cancel you. That's not the word. Debate is how we move forward.
And there are people calling, and again, people might accuse me of silencing them by not putting them on, but I don't know. It's more to do with Ofcom rules than not putting them on. There are people calling just to say she is a bigot. She is a bigot, and I'm not minded to give that time and have a debate about it because it's so demonstrably easy to prove that she isn't.
But she's only a bigot because she doesn't agree with the activist statement.
But she isn't.
But
guess who is? Guess who is in that situation? Guess who is in that situation?
But she has an opinion. She's not trying to incite riot, is she? I don't think so.
No, she isn't at all. She's not going to get an opportunity to at the stand if that was her plan. Les and Lewisham, thanks very much indeed. Craig has called from Newcastle. Hello, Craig. Hi, Craig.
Hi, Sheila. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thanks. Yeah,
very well. I've just been listening to your conversation with the topic that's been going on. So with myself, I've got a trans cousin who's male to female. And what it is, we were very close. And when he broke the news to the family, we are a very typical African family. So for him to do that was a major thing. And what it is, when we sat down and spoke about it, and eventually once we got educated about the whole situation, we then learned that it's a bit of everyone's sort of opinion. It's opinionated. Everything's opinionated and how everyone feels. And my mother, she's black African, father's white British. So with that coming inside, half my family are black and half my family are white, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So with that whole categorization of trans, someone wants to be like this, someone wants to be like that. I grew up my whole childhood thinking I was white. Literally I had blonde hair, blue eyes. And then when I hit puberty, I started getting this frizzy afro hair. My pigmentation started going a bit olivey, and now it's actually like I'm sort of classed as a whole class on the same mixed race. And with all this being said, I felt it difficult myself, knowing what I was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you had a bit of a struggle working yourself out because of that.
100%, and this is where when I was sitting talking to my cousin about the whole trans, what he feels and how he feels, where I'm hearing that one point that he did make to me was, you don't really hear about transitioning to men, people having a problem with it. Like, that's my opinion anyway. I haven't heard much, opinions about that, but when it comes to men that are transitioning to women, it's a big hoopla. It's a big, fiasco.
I think there are a number of reasons for that, but one of them is definitely women's sex-based rights.
100%. I agree with that. 100%.
Yeah. And people come at that from all kinds of angles, but that's one of the reasons.
Yes, and I think when it comes to the males to guys, I can understand that. And also males to females, you've had that convict in Scotland that just transitioned through it. Yeah, just the stuff like that. I fully.
And when your cousin was explaining how she felt before transitioning, when she was explaining that to you, could you see parallels in her distress with yours when you were working out your colour-based identity?
Yeah, 100, exactly that. That's what he knew that I went through a very, let's say, hardship at one point in school, where obviously there's two words that can't pronounce on the radio live, but where I was so confused, where it was like, excuse me, and when he was explaining himself in the way he felt, the way he is, the way he thinks, I was like, I've got some similarities to the same way you're thinking, the way you're trying to like. Basically, our bottom line was we both found we were in the same boat at one point of thinking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and was that partly to do with how as much as it being your own internal identity working out, which every teenager does, was that also about how the external world responded to you?
100%. 100%. So he's just recently got a chest operation. So sorry, she's going through all the operations. So her father's seen this, and that was the biggest where we all just stood quiet, if that makes sense, and let that sort of sink in.
But it sounds like in your family there's a lot of listening going on.
Well, there has to be, because at one point there wasn't. It was all. So my family completely broke up. There was times that people weren't talking to each other for months, for years.
But better now.
And then eventually, God rest his soul, a few family members passed away. And we learned, look, life's too short to...
Absolutely, it is. Well, may the listening continue. Thanks, Craig. Craig in Newcastle. Coming up after the news at 3, we're going to continue with the listening and the talking. We're going to return to the subject of stalking for a very particular reason. I'll tell you more in a minute.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 3 o'clock, the US has dismissed claims by Russia that it coordinated a drone attack on the Kremlin designed to assassinate Vladimir Putin. Moscow claims it told Kyiv to carry out the alleged attempt on the Russian president. Ukraine also denies being involved. Jade McGlynn from King's College London's War Studies Department has told LBC Ukrainians are worried Russia will retaliate.
There's a nervousness, everybody's waiting for the counter-offensive, and there's a lot of tension within society, certainly among the people that I speak to and that I've been speaking to sort of since 2014 to gauge Russian attitudes towards Ukraine.
The family of a woman killed in South London on Monday afternoon say they can't imagine who would do this to her. 31-year-old Janita Kosowa-Dogby was stabbed to death in Brixton. Police are still questioning a 33-year-old man on suspicion of murder. Officers don't believe she knew her attacker. Israeli authorities say 3 Palestinian men wanted over the killing of a British-Israeli family have been killed in a raid. Lucy D and her daughters Maya and Rena died in a shooting in the West Bank last month. A review will be carried out into the AI market, including the popular chatbot ChatGPT. The Competition and Markets Authority says it will look at the opportunities and risks of artificial intelligence. It comes a day after the godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, resigned from his job at Google, warning that bad actors could use it to harm others. The Prince and Princess of Wales have taken a ride on the London Underground's Elizabeth line for the first time. William and Kate went to visit a pub in Soho to see how they're preparing for the coronation on Saturday. Chris manages the Dog and Duck.
We poured an excellent pint of Kingmaker, which is the beer we made just for the coronation. The first pint that's ever been poured, he poured today, so that was amazing. And then, they both had a glass of cider.
And more than 500,000 hopefuls have applied for a ballot place to take part in next year's London Marathon. Organisers received a total of 578,374 applications, setting a new world record. In the city a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was trading down 69 points at 77.19. The pound buys $1.25 and €1.14. LBC weather: showers moving northeastwards across southwestern parts of the UK. Dry elsewhere with rain easing in the far north, a high of 20 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Amelia Cox.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Sheila Fogarty.
Hello there, good afternoon to you. LBC figures reveal that the numbers of teenagers arrested for stalking has increased hugely. And it's led me to think again, obviously, about my own experience of stalking. It wasn't a teenager, it was a fairly young man, though, who stalked me for 3 years. And in that experience, I learned a lot about what I didn't know about stalking. And then, as you know, I made a podcast called The Followers, which you can download wherever you get your podcasts from, not least Global Player. But in the making of that podcast, I learned a hell of a lot about what the law does say about stalking and harassment, and how little people understand it, including police officers in some cases. We'll hear in a few moments from Detective Chief Inspector Daniel Thompson, who does understand it. He's the Met's stalking lead. He'll talk to us in a moment. But first, Sarah Collins, LBC's reporter, has gathered this exclusive data for LBC on the rise in teenagers arrested on suspicion of stalking and harassment. Take a listen.
I'm so scared to open the front door. It takes me a lot of courage to know what is on the other side of the front door. I'm just scared that he is going to be standing there because this has happened.
Abby's nightmare started 2 years ago when Jamie Spears turned up on her doorstep with a present. His behaviour soon escalated. Jamie followed her to Ibiza and was even found to be living in her basement. But she told me that she didn't initially see herself as a victim of stalking.
When it was happening to me, I didn't know that I was being stalked, and I also didn't know that it was a crime.
Abby is not alone. An LBC investigations found more teenagers are being arrested on suspicion of stalking. It went up by 765% in England and Wales over the last 5 years. 178 13 to 18-year-olds were questioned last year. Though that figure is low compared to other age groups, charities have told me that it could be far higher because young people don't recognise what stalking is. Saskia Garners from the Susie Lampley Trust.
Sometimes there can be a bit of a normalisation around the extent to which we're expected to receive, multiple text messages, and sometimes it's suggested that this might actually be quite romantic if somebody's, pursuing you and they want to go out with you or they want your phone number or whatever it is.
There are fears that means young people aren't reporting these crimes and has led to calls for better